And we are live.
And we are live.
Welcome to Spoken Openness. This is episode number 29. 29. Almost 30. Yep. That's exciting. I'm going to jump right in here. We've got a quote. I know everybody's very excited about hearing the quote of the episode. And this is, I will open quote. The highest activity a human being can attain is learning for understanding, because to understand is to be free. And that is by a guy named Baruch Spinoza.
Spinoza. Where is he from?
Mars, Mercury, I'm not sure.
Because I've never heard that last name before.
Spinoza.
Spinoza. Nice.
I'll say it one more time. Open quote. The highest activity a human being can attain. The highest activity a human being can attain is learning for understanding, because to understand is to be free. Close quote. So that means that basically...
I love that.
That basically means that freedom in this context is the highest value. Because if you're saying that the highest activity you can do is learning for understanding, and because understanding is to be free, that means that to be free is what you're after.
Yes, that's implied. Freedom is the goal.
I think it's a great thing.
Freedom from or freedom of?
Or freedom towards.
We can get there. Right. Yes.
Or freedom within, freedom without, freedom of, freedom with.
All of those are necessary at a certain level.
Freedom perception, freedom experience. Yeah. I think that's great. The idea that you can...
All of those.
If you understand, you don't just have the info. I think we've talked about this. You don't just have facts that you can recite. You memorize something, but you... And maybe I would say that the connection that we made, or something that has come up that I like to think about and I like to incorporate into my way of thinking based on something that we've talked about in a podcast,
yes,
was the idea that if you learn something, the best thing you can do is to then see how you could have gotten there yourself through what you already know, and that's going to find out how you would have gotten there, or how you could have gotten there with what you already knew, so that you can generate a connection that's the deepest for yourself as a person towards that. In relationship to that knowledge, that means it'll be more accessible to the other things you know. It'll be more widespread. It'll be incorporated into other understandings. And so if we take that idea of understanding, then with that, you'll be able to navigate the world more accurately, understand cause and effect in your own way, make predictions. The world will be what you think it is, and you'll find successes. And the success you're looking for is freedom, and you'll achieve it more frequently if you understand things than if you just have facts or have memorized something.
Yeah. And it's also giving you a tool to do that. It's also giving you the compass for the navigation process, which is truth, right? He's saying if you're inclined towards truth, freedom will come. So you don't have to fight for freedom. All you have to do is try to be on the side of truth. Look for the truth.
Right.
Have an inclination towards a sense of the truth is out there.
So that's the connection between the notion of understanding and the notion of truth, and that when you are understanding something deeply, well, can you make that connection there? Can you answer, Guy, that connection there? The connection between understanding and truth? Is it possible to understand?
I think all understanding is limited understanding, so we should talk from there. We're all limited in our perception of reality.
Yes.
But we can have an attempt towards being on the right side of understanding. Or at least an idea that there is such a thing as incorrect understanding. And that's a stepping stone towards a lot of different
Right.
possibilities.
And I was just going to mention that impulse of saying that every piece of understanding or every piece of understanding is limited understanding. I was just thinking of the idea that that is both a scientific and rational idea and also kind of a postmodern idea. But then where it separates, where it separates is where you went next, where that parallel ended, which was the idea that there is something such as objective truth out there or something like that. But I just wanted to make that. I hadn't quite thought about that before. That there was a parallel there, at least in the idea that everything is limited.
And I was surprised that you mentioned that it kind of borders with postmodernism, and you have to make that distinction, which is key.
Could you make the connection between understanding and truth?
I can try, I guess. Yes, yeah. I think so. I think so. So
we don't need to. I'm putting you on the spot as answer guy. You can accept or decline the invitation.
I accept the opportunity to surprise myself.
Ooh.
Nice. Okay, let's try.
I think you surprised yourself with the idea of surprising yourself.
I do think there's a distinction between knowledge and, shall we say, wisdom.
Tell me why.
Certain type of knowledge that is validated by objective reality as we perceive it from a rational mindset, from a cohesive understanding of reality as such, not as we decide to see it, right, or as we wish or been taught, etc. So if you try to just name things by their own name instead of, so basically, I guess what we do when we try to define concepts before and further engaging with them so that we're in the same page.
Right.
I think that's a phenomenon that's taking place everywhere at all times. Every time there's communication going on.
Yes. And that's the power of language to shape reality. I would say from my current position, and I'm open to investigating more, but the idea of language shaping reality colors our understanding of the world, but I don't think that it's all that our understanding of the world is. I don't believe in the idea. I'm open, but I am not sold on the idea that language is everything, and that because everything is understood through language, that language is limiting, that it's impossible ever to be close to something that I guess you could say is objective truth, or that because language shapes reality, then language is subjective, then everything is always going to be subjective because it's a filter that we use to understand reality. I think that's true to a point.
To a point, okay.
And this is me being answer guy and feeling like I need to identify with having an opinion on this. Yeah. But I do tend to feel that there is the possibility of getting closer to something that you could consider to be objective or more objective than alternatives, I suppose.
Yes.
And that is a good goal to have, is to try to get as close as to what perhaps could be conceived of as objective truth as possible, and that's worthwhile.
And practical, maybe.
And practical.
We can even go there. Oh, so
can you define, sorry, I don't interrupt you. Can you define objective reality? Like, what do we mean when we're saying objective truth?
I don't like the term objective reality.
I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to.
I think no. Let me explain.
Okay, I'm just really sorry that.
Apology not accepted. Okay.
Hey. All right.
Hey, listen. Water is wet, isn't it? So objective reality seems a little bit like.
What do you mean by wet?
Yeah. Okay, hold on there. Wait a
I'll
second.
let you get a
Okay.
sentence out there. Jeez, it's coffee.
If the phrase language shapes reality is correct, almost 100%, if that's the case,
Which is language in
then
itself, so that means that that's incorrect as well. Hey,
whoa, we're getting to meta cyclical reverse.
I need to
Hold on.
stop interrupting.
Okay.
Yes, if that statement is
No,
correct.
no, no. Okay, let me order my thoughts.
Yeah.
If the statement language shapes reality is correct, then you could make the point that you can use language to modify reality, and then reality will be modified. But if the claim is not correct, and we can rephrase that to language is something like a finger pointing at something. Sorry about that. Language is a finger pointing at something, and that's
It's a
something
mediator, it's a filter.
is real, is reality. So you don't even need to say it's objective, right? I mean, that's reality. If you're trying to refer to subjective reality, then maybe you can be specific and say your own subjective reality, your own world, your own fictional thing. But I believe that if there's such a thing as reality, it should just be called reality with all the weight that it has. And
Okay.
then language is something that's trying to point at that. And sometimes it
Okay.
misses. That's why the English language has so many different words, because the specifics, the details matter.
Yes. Okay, so I've got a fork in what I would like to say. The first thing that came up in my conscious reality was in my sentence making part of my mind was to summarize or to try to play back to you what you just said. So the idea that it's a finger pointing at something that exists, where can we? It's something that is a filter. That yes, it alters whatever it was initially, and this is say an objective thing or phenomena. Yes, it filters and it can color it and it can change it based on an interpretation, but the source is something real nonetheless. And so it's pointing at something that is, you could say, objective reality, and something in that conversation maybe we could try to do, or maybe it's pointless, but to figure out what is the umbrella that you have to step outside of to say that's the objective reality. Is it outside of language? Is it outside of consciousness? Is it outside of human beings? Where do you go to say a thing must exist and be true in this place in order for it to be quote unquote objective reality or objective truth or objective or reality, something real? The second
That's the
thing,
$1 million question.
the second thing is gone.
That's great, because the first thing is so complex.
Okay. It might pop up and I'll see what happens.
Yeah. The question you just raised is basically the question is, what are the parameters from which we separate fiction, or shall I say, I don't like that word.
Good segue.
Let me say truth versus falsehood, illusion, reality from anything that's not reality. So the question is, what is reality? What is the true reality?
Yeah, and how far outside of human beings? So I think maybe one of the ways I guess I right now I'm deciding to believe as to what objective reality is that if humans didn't exist and language wasn't there to filter, that there. So I guess outside of conscious minds that, as Alan Watts would say, net the world and bit the world. That in that concept, the world is sort of one thing that's awash with with atoms and all this stuff, and that there's
Okay.
no distinction necessarily between things, but then when a human being comes along, it says this organized grouping of physical material is called a this, and then we shape it and we put it in a little container, we bit it, and we say this is this, and everyone will call it that, and then we can reference it, and then we can reference it against other things.
And then with people would disagree on details, and that will
Sure.
evolve as time goes by.
Yes, and but that behind the names there is a real thing that's there. Maybe it's not necessarily exactly as squarely nested within our definitions in language, like it gets when we're talking about a wall. Is it, how much, the space in atoms, is it solid, is it not solid, all that kind of thing. But the phenomena is still real of what you are referencing. It's not created by language. You can't create, it's definitely physical reality by thinking about it, unless someone's, I guess, in a, and I don't know, but you see those shows of people who are getting hypnotized and they're on stage. You could be like, you're running into a door, and then they would hit something.
I
That
do
isn't
see
there and
those
fall down.
shows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yes,
I don't know what
so-
to think about hypnotism, but if that is true, that people believe they're hitting a wall and then they act like it, who knows what the limit of that argument is. But
Yeah, the mind is highly subject to
yeah,
influence, for sure.
yeah, yes.
So,
Did I derail any? Did I derail a?
no, I don't think
avenue?
so. I think
I've lost the train
I
slightly.
think we're walking on a very thin line here, and there's extreme danger on both sides of the fall. So
Dare we say both hands?
I don't know, because
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of
Okay.
here's my thing, okay? I do believe both and is possible,
Yeah.
but I don't believe both and is advisable, or
okay.
or I don't think we want that as a collective at all, because
As an aim,
yeah, or a outcome.
as a belief.
It starts as a belief, but then it becomes outcome. And
Could I
what do I
say
mean
that?
by this? Yeah.
Could I say that the idea that belief, thus just the idea that a certain belief will have benefit in the real world, is acknowledging the fact that language can generate truths within or change reality based on simply a belief? Does it?
In some cases?
But I guess that's not. That's. I guess that's kind of straw man jujitsu on the argument. It's not really. It's kind.
Because those beliefs are outside of what we would call objective reality, but then there's a usefulness to the belief in the psychological or cognitive benefits of using language in your favor, or I don't know. But
Could we convert language into narrative? Not convert, but the most powerful way.
Yeah.
The most powerful way that language shapes our understanding is little stories. Even
Yes.
this is a X.
yes, and
That
I
is
do
a
think there's
narrative.
symbolic reality and there's literal reality. So some things are true in a symbolic way,
Yep.
and very I don't know, highly rational mindset would be like, no, if it's not true in a literal way, it's not true. But I tend to question that. I do believe some things can be true in a symbolic way without them being true in what we would tend to call objective reality.
For sure.
But is that another wave? Because
That's
I
another
think
wave.
the previous
Yeah.
wave is there such a thing as reality? And I kind of was going for reality is truth.
Yeah.
And
Understanding
we use
is linked to
language
truth.
to get there. Yeah. But are we trying to make that so because it's useful, or is that a claim we can make without a belief system?
Okay, let me. I have an impulse for sentences, and then I'll try to convert them in and see what happens. Understanding could be investigating something that you might believe could be false, and by thinking through something and understanding fully the both and, or possibly as much as possible, to steel man and to really incorporate based on your own, in your own mind, in your own things that you've already come to believe to be true, and then within that framework, truly understanding something, even if it seems far from what could be objective reality, that understanding will still, at the very least, if you understand it and you still don't think that it's accurate, then in the very least it gives you a stronger sense of truth for the opposite or the other side, or what you already believed, or the thing what you were investigating, the thing that is not. So in the very least, taking an approach of truly understanding, even if it doesn't say change your mind, if it's something that's regarding changing your mind, it will still, at the very least, bolster your ability to look at both sides or something and then have a stronger sense that you've done the work to feel confident about what you believe or what you think is true.
Yeah.
So in that sense, understanding would give you that. And then if you could make the argument too that a feeling of truly understanding, or of having a source to something that's truth, and having an understanding like that's like freedom in a sense. And this is, I don't know, this is a new wave probably, but there's the freedom of being totally convinced that whatever you understand and something that you're in, whether it's a ideology or a religious institution or something, if that has all the answers, that's super comforting and that's easy, and it's like a weight off your shoulders metaphysically, because it's like, I don't need to personally come to an answer of some massive question. I can just read and be like, okay, that's what it is. I believe, like, this understanding. And so in a sense, understanding that thing, even though it's predetermined for you and most likely filled with many holes that you could pick apart if you truly thought about it, that understanding, it gives you a sense of freedom, because you're like, well, I don't have to use my resources to every little thing try to come up personally with what I think is reality and truth and build that slowly piece by piece. But then on the other hand, to be free from an ideology and structure that gives you all the answers, that's in itself free. That's freedom also. So I don't know where that fits in, but that's just an idea that came up. Was that?
So I think I can try to phrase that in a different way and see where that leads us.
Beautiful.
If truth is personal, if truth is individual and relative, then that means that there's no real understanding to be had. You can't. You can be. If you're a relativist, you can't really have a position of trying to understand or comprehend something, because your compass is not correct or incorrect, or aligned with reality or not aligned with reality. Your compass is both are valid. So there's no real inquiry
Right.
to be made. And
That would be the
if-
agnostic position on, not in a religious sense, but on many things. Is that what you're saying? Being on the fence in some way?
No, I don't think agnostic means relativist in
Okay.
I don't know. I
I'm using
don't
it in-
see that.
I'm using it
not-
incorrectly.
I don't
But I
see
guess
that. I don't see that. Right now,
I'm
but yeah.
using it incorrectly, and it's a loaded word. I guess means someone who is open to the possibility and just doesn't know. Is that?
Yes, and I agree. And then in that sense, I do agree that the agnostic is, oh, I can't really know. I can't really
Yeah.
figure it out. It's all. I guess the agnostic also contemplates the fact that it could be either or, but you just don't know or believe that you can make the jump to knowing. But in this case, a relativist would say there's no yes,
Yeah.
there's no yes or there's no. It's all both are yes in their own context. So context matters, and so both can be correct. And
Yes.
I think this can be true. You can make the claim that both objective and subjective realities are equally real, I guess. But where does that lead us? It will lead to everyone having their own language. If you
Right.
take it to the ultimate extreme, everyone's in their own head, has their own reality. How
Or
do
no
we,
one, or the loss of language.
or the loss of language? No communication.
No
Because
communication.
then there's no need to figure it out.
Everyone's definitions are interpreted.
Valid. Yes.
That's
So
that's scary.
the-
I just wanted
yeah.
quickly, because you brought up this idea of like having a position that's relative, of saying like it could be I'm just in no position to determine whatever. I just wanted to make a distinction between that and the both and thing that we do a lot on spoken openness, just to clarify my own thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I think the position or the beauty of both and isn't to say it could be one or the other and that it doesn't matter. It's that there are portions of truth within both, and between them there's something that's where you find the closest match, or the
Yeah,
idea
I
of the
agree.
both and would be that between the two there's a close match. But a purely relativist, I don't know, it became French or something. The purely relativistic position would be, no, there's nothing in the middle of anything, and everybody is true in their own way, and both either
Or
side
it would be like a
could
very high level both and usually our both ands happen in a detail, like after we dive into details, and then in the details we find a place where apparently opposite ideas coexist, and then maybe we
Yes.
find a both and, but we're never like everything both and. So
I
guess
believe,
that-
yeah, and
yeah.
I've always been interested in looking back. That idea, and I don't know if this is correct at all, but I always feel like that idea is always attributed to like Hegel, as like the Hegelian dialectic is seen as this like miraculous new way of conceptualizing ideas and stuff like that. But it's like that's all throughout esoteric history of the union of opposites, and yin and yang is that.
Got it. Yeah.
And that idea is so old, and that union of opposites is one of the oldest metaphysical ideas. Sun and the moon. It's just one of the oldest things, in that there are truths on both sides, and that in the union there becomes something. Well, within this framework, there's something that becomes like fertile. Something is born between those two, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Is like, if there's these two elements, say male, female, and this is using it purely in the esoteric and symbolic manner of opposites, that between them becomes a generation of something new, and that would be a child. And so I guess that is, I suppose that's how I see the both and in the way that we try to use it, is that there are these opposites, and between them is born something new that incorporates both things, but it's new and is hopefully well, now I know closer to the truth, but I'm not saying that children are closer to truth. That's not. But yeah, that the thing born will be hopefully something that's incorporated in the ideas realm.
But you can make the case that it is a child that carries the truth forward throughout time, and
In a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, we can go there, but yes, I mean, what I have trouble both ending is the claim that, I don't know, if this is a dangerous path.
Yeah.
Let me see. Okay, if lies don't exist, then I think, there's a very scary future, basically. I kind of wanted to go for an example, but let's just say it's a very, very dangerous and scary future. And if we're not all trying to avoid that, then I guess it'll happen. Like,
is there a reason why you chose lies and not objective truth, or the danger?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to twist it and approach it from the opposite side, because sometimes, I don't know, I like what Jordan Peterson says, that sometimes you can't really speak the truth, but you can try not to lie, try not to say things that you really know are not aligned with reality. And rules, I guess that's true. So I guess and that's also a very old idea. Like, we don't really know how back these ideas go in time, and they get reframed, I guess. But if you go to the symbolic origin, everything is captured there.
That's like the word. That's all these god archetypes. Marduk in the Mesopotamian myths, and all of the other myths who are generating the world from words, and that's from speaking, and that's and that it will be true and good also, and that that's kind of the same. That's the same concept that Watt's concept of bidding the world, and turning the mass of I guess in this context, chaos, and then bidding it into pieces of order in order to understand it and to navigate within it accurately.
So I guess the pattern that emerges from all of these traditions and different worldviews that have this pattern ingrained there is that usually illusion and lie gets put in there with chaos and evil and malevolence, or the opposite of goodness, and then truth and goodness and objective reality are kind of like put in the same category. And like why is that? Where is that coming from? And why is it surviving millennia? And could that be the cornerstone of why society works? Why do we have? Why are we tend to be on the same page about stuff?
Yeah. Well, practically, you could, like, a really extreme and stupid example that I'm just coming up with right now is if I told you you'd never been to a street before, and it was a highway, and I said, no, you can just walk across. Like, cars are really good at people do it all the time. Like, I just lied to you. Then you're probably going to cause an accident or maybe die, or so. And in that context, if I told you the truth, and I mean, this maybe is so just like taking a specific and narrowing down the massive concept, but I guess the concepts emerge from individual instances that then from different areas of cultures and societies and times, and that small interactions get abstracted, and that those abstractions become these narratives that we see throughout time all over the world, I guess. And that would be how small interactions of people telling the truth and it resulting in good things, and then instances where people are lying and then that resulting in bad things happening. Then slowly over time, you say this and this and this happened and they lied, and so then it went bad, and then all these people said true things and in these different areas and good things happened, and when we told it like it is, then good things happen, and therefore truth is good. And that's how something like that, I guess, unfolds. And so freedom, if freedom is good, understanding is truth, then truth and freedom are good. And I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some mix of what we've been talking about in there. And somehow maybe we can segue. I don't know if we want to.
I do think there's a positive different road, I guess, that we can take this, because I wanted to mention the word. What am I looking for? The word is censorship.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to mention censorship because
hot topic.
I since we're talking about the truth and your own ability to not only believe in the truth but try to free speech the truth, right? Like attempt to speak the truth.
Yes.
Just the fact that censorship exists just blows my mind. Like from a philosophy, big picture mindset.
And what censorship are you talking about?
Cultural censorship, I'm talking about. Like people that are...
Social media stuff? Social media?
Not necessarily. I guess it's been happening for a long time where someone, for any reason, starts having a platform and starts reaching more people. Somehow there's forces, and I'm not saying corporate media or government, like it could be just another guy with a different idea, let's say. Let's keep it open. There's always one force that's battling one truth, that's battling the other truth, I guess. And there's some.
Would you say that's true? That there's one truth battling another truth?
No. That's totally against what I think we're riffing about here.
Yeah.
But I guess there's the word is narrative. There's one narrative, and there's an opposite narrative, and
I mean, I don't necessarily see it like the idea that there's like this one narrative that's pushed, and then there's an opposite narrative, and that it's like binary. I don't think that's true.
I agree. That's dangerous. So if I dare, should I try to be more specific? For example,
sure.
You said social media, and I'm just going to say there's some people saying some things on social media at the moment that are at the moment being banned from some platforms. Yeah. And the question is that truth or inquiry being suppressed, or is that really this social media corporations following guidelines in a respectful manner, let's say?
Yeah, and that's the conversation of where's the line of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and how much power do you think these social media platforms or internet platforms should have?
Why are some people not letting the masses hear stuff? Just hear stuff out. Let them decide.
Yeah.
And I guess
But before this is a secondary rabbit hole. But before, the connection I think you were making there to get here was that part of the way that speaking and ideally speaking the truth, or one way to understand fully, is to have the largest amount of information that is not... The largest range of information is better in a sense that you have more to investigate, understand, hopefully, and then from that understanding, you can determine
Yes.
how you would like to conceptualize that information,
Right.
and that the idea that there should be less access, or there should be
Incorrect
ideas,
information that's
information,
not
right.
supposed to be out there, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and that's a whole can of worms that I think perhaps takes an episode to explore, and I would like to.
Yes, yes. Yeah. But do you think it's the correct segue? Or not correct, but like a valid
I think it's
connection?
a valid. I think it's a valid connection.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things that's very, very sensitive and sketchy, and lots like it's very politicized, and it's.
But why? I mean, why?
Yes.
Why are ideas dangerous? That whole idea of
Right.
having dangerous ideas, I'm totally.
Yeah, so the first
against
thing we
that, I
should
guess, yeah.
the first thing we should, I guess, try to parse out is, do we think there's dangerous ideas? Do we think, what is it? The steel man is that ideas and narratives are very powerful,
Yes.
and if there is if there are too many convincing narratives that would imply an outcome, that would imply people behaving or making rash decisions, or making or being radicalized, that powerful narratives like that should be
Censored. Yeah.
should be removed.
Yes.
And
And controlled.
trying to make that case, I think, is very important. And I think I would like to talk about, before exploring more fully, or I guess this idea, and spoiler, this episode we were going to get into alternative ideas and the approach, or the experience of going down a rabbit hole of some sort of online thing, and the psychology behind it, and that whole process. So spoiler alert, we were going to talk about that, but we're going to do that on the next episode. But before we kind of get into those ideas, or approaching that issue, I think we should do this, or maybe think about narratives are powerful, and what is kind of out from our own ideas, not having to Google people's arguments or whatever.
Yeah, agree.
What do we think about that? Do you want to wrap up kind of some of your thoughts about
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay,
this
so
episode?
I guess we mostly focused on the consequences of both believing in truth and objective reality and discarding that. And I feel like we agree that if you discard that, the future is uncertain.
That's also maybe
Yeah.
I think there's still more exploration there.
Yes, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I cut you off. But
I guess that's it on my side. I mean, the other way to say that is that we've been playing with truth and playing with the idea of reality for such a long time.
Yeah.
And
you mean as a culture, or us, you and me?
Both.
Or like a society?
I would say both. As a
okay.
society, I was saying that more of a society. But I mean, this is a micro of, I think, what has been happening for a long time on a like mass level.
One of the biggest debates always. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like I'm standing almost, like, I feel like both my feet are standing on truth and objective reality right now, to be honest.
Yeah. I've got like one foot's kind of over the line, and the other one is standing on the line with a few toes kind of falling in. But mostly from a practical standpoint. Yeah. But I think both of us are in agreement that the most valuable approach is to metaphorically birth something from between and not say that it is one or the other, or that it's relative and that they're both true, whatever, but that something in the middle is the truth, or that something that incorporates something from both is truth, because that it would be on its face inaccurate to say, no, there's nothing at all true about one of the, say, a side.
Right. Both opposites are
right.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so if I just kind of do a quick little recap on my end here, these quotes, man, starting these episodes with a quote, we just ends up waving the whole episode.
Yeah.
The idea of understanding and taking time to really understand something, even if, like, there's a lot of, or I guess you could have a perspective that says you would waste your time if you're so certain about something, or something seems so collectively believed to be true. You would be wasting your time to explore something opposite or alternative to that. And I guess something that we discussed on this episode is that even worst case scenario, going through the process of truly understanding something that might deviate from what you believe or what collectively people believe, the worst case scenario is that it only makes you more certain, or gives you a grounding to be more certain about that belief in the first place. And so
I love that. I think that's the argument against suppressing dangerous ideas and against censorship.
And we can go there. But for me, that's sort of something that I'll take away. And yes, sir. Thank you for the convo.
Thank you, man.
And I'll
great convo. And
see
I'll
you
see
and
you
hear
on
from you
30.
On 30. Peace.
Peace.